Welcome to Whiteboard Wednesday, week 12. Last week in one of my Twitters, when we were letting people know that the Whiteboard Wednesday was up on our website, asked for some suggestions and got some very good suggestions as to things we could actually do and do a little bit differently. But generally, the feedback's been terrific, which is great. With this particular one, and as part of the feedback, I thought it was a good time to actually summarise a little bit of where we're at. We have a tendency to work through various models and structures, and as part of that, you can lose the context as to what we're basically here to do. The main purpose of the Whiteboard Wednesdays in reflecting back was to create and give people a good understanding of the various frameworks of which we're utilising to build the football club, and in part of that also give some insight as to some of the decisions we've made in the context of those frameworks. And for those who followed the series all the way through, there might be a little bit of overlap between what we've talked about in the past, but I think hopefully it'll help bring some of these things into context. As I've said before, all the frameworks are taken from this document, which is our red and blueprint, and there's three major frameworks which actually come from that. There are obviously many other frameworks that we use as part of that, particularly in the football area, as we strive to sort of measure performance and understand the list structures and how they're evolving and how they're developing and that type of thing. But in the main, there's three main frameworks, and I'll talk about each of those today. The first one we talk about is this, I'll need most of the whiteboard today, but it's this notion of heritage to legacy. And we use this terminology, quite obviously, because what we do is we inherit in a football club a heritage, and the heritage is, in our case, 152 years old, and gives you there's a beautiful richness about it. But it's also one of the reasons why, in fact, we have some of the strategic challenges that we actually do have, and so therefore it's incumbent on us to try and build a legacy, which is obviously leaving the club in a far stronger position than what we currently find. But the main thing that this actually develops over time is this notion of a narrative, or some people call it a storyline. And what that does is actually gives you a basis for which you can build your vision and you can create a good understanding of the direction you're taking. And we use this model, and I'll just do it in simple terms. I won't go through all the detail of it, but in simple terms, it's basically this. We have a heritage here that then impacts on what we want to do in terms of the values of the organisation, which is then we call the ethos. And again, we deliberately use the word ethos because I think in the main that describes the fact that there's a work hard element to the notion of what we do. Some people use the word culture. I prefer the word ethos. That impacts on our decision making. Just tighten a little bit here. Decision making, and that's all the things which relate to decision making, whether that's the people we employ, the systems, the governance, the strategies, the things which actually impact on how we go about making decisions. And we fundamentally make decisions in regard to four key areas. The first one of these is the brand. It's obviously the team. It's the resources we need to go around. That includes dollars and cents and all that sort of stuff, but also facilities, and in our case we also use community as part of that, and ultimately we leave a legacy. And then that's a circular debate. So you could actually in fact just go like that, and it becomes this circular thing. And because that will then be, and it's forever repeating itself, but ultimately that's what we're looking to do. And that's why in so much of the stuff that we've talked about in recent times, we've really focused on this notion of where the clubs actually come from as a really strong point of reference for where we're actually going. And I think Melbourne supporters really respect that and understand that they really want to reflect on the heritage of the organisation. And I think probably there have been times in the past we've been really challenged by this, not because people aren't proud of what we're about, but mainly because of the fact that in the end, for instance, we've ended up with a very small supporter base, and that's part of where we've actually come from and part of the challenges and the reasons why we go through this process. But the most important thing in heritage, as I've talked about many times before, is the key piece of heritage is the fact that there's however many people out there, in the hundreds of thousands of people who actually love the club, and they love the club for their own reasons, and that's the most important heritage that we can actually have. But okay, we've come out of that, and that creates our narrative and our storyline, and the next phase we have to do, and most importantly, in the sense of this, is create a profit model. And the profit model is just a simple notion of managing and understanding what the trade-offs that we have to make. Strategy is about making trade-offs and getting the best value from them. And what people will often lose sight of when they talk about profit model is they think it's all this one-dimensional view, oh, we have to create profit. Well, of course we have to create profit. We have to create profit so we can invest back. We have to create profit so we can give our players the best opportunities of achieving the very best of their careers. It's not a one-dimensional, let's grab our customers and suck the goodness out of them in any way we possibly can. It's quite the opposite to that. It's actually understanding you need to have a framework of which you can establish your, establish the trade-offs, and good strategy is creating the best trade-offs. We can't spend money on everything. We have to make choices, and the other aspect in regard to trade-offs is it's just not dollars and cents. It's also the trade-off between where we in fact put our effort, or even the life of a footballer is a trade-off. How much time they spent on their physical skills versus their football skills versus their game skills versus their personal development. They can't do everything of everything. So that's a part of it.